Let's move on now to Standard 2, and this deals with the integrity of the capital markets. So we started out with professionalism, now we're on integrity of the capital markets. So let's have a look and see what kind of trouble we can get into here. And the first thing we come up with, Standard 2A, is material non-public information. So a member in possession of non-public information that could affect a firm's value must not act or cause someone else to act on that information. Now, this is a really big statement. Of course, there is lots of material non-public information in our industry that you could have access to very legitimately because you work in an M&A department or any of 100 other reasons. Okay? And what this actually requires is that you act like you would, okay, if you were not in possession of this information. Okay, and that would actually include type 1 and type 2 errors, and I don't mean to freak you out about the type 1, type 2 thing, but it means not only that if you have material non-public information that indicates, oh, the price of this security is going to go up when everyone finds out about this, you don't go out and buy it, okay? But it would also say that you don't not buy it. If it's the material would say this inside information would say value is going to go down. So if you were planning to buy it, you have to buy it anyway, or at least that's what the implication is here. So you have to behave as if you are not in possession of the material, in possession of this information. And of course, that is very difficult. In fact, probably for the human brain, impossible. But at least that's the standard that we are holding up. Okay, in terms of guidance, okay, now remember, there's two terms here, right? So there's material and there's non-public, right? So we're talking about material, non-public information. Well, what's material and what's non-public? And both of those things have to apply for this to trigger the requirements here in the standards of professional conduct. So in terms of material, okay, if disclosure of the information is going to impact the security's price, or okay, if an investor would want to know before making an investment decision. Okay, so impact securities price, that's there's lots of things that impact price. Okay, to the extent that there is something that wouldn't impact price, but that the typical investor would want to know, even if that doesn't move the price, that's a pretty low bar for what would constitute material information. Now, they make this caveat that if the price effect is ambiguous, we don't know if this is going to make the value go up or down, then it may not be considered material. Okay, I think this is confounding, right? So I think the standard here is that if an investor would want to know, even if it doesn't impact price, if it's going to impact price or impact price is one thing, or if the typical investor would want to know before making a decision, then it's going to be considered material. There is this one caveat, and I can't even think of an example of when that would apply, but it's important. The typical investor would want to know it, okay, but it doesn't impact price. Well, if they can tell a story that it fits in there, or they say specifically that the impact of this is going to be ambiguous, okay, then maybe that would be an exception to this. But generally, I would focus on a very low threshold for what constitutes materiality on the exam. So, and this of course extends to things like upcoming ratings changes or, the release of an opinion from an influential analyst or something like that. So anyway, so material, okay, if it's going to impact price or if the typical investor would want to know, and then non-public. So information is non-public until it's been made available to the marketplace generally. So information that's been made available just to a group of analysts. So you go to a dog and pony show and you have a CFO up there, and the CFO is incredibly stupid to say something like this, but just to give you a story. You're in a room with 25 analysts. CFO's talking and he goes, yeah, we're going to release our EPS numbers on Friday, and they're going to show that we beat expectations by 3 cents a share. Okay, but shh, don't tell anybody. All right, well, all right, that was a really dumb thing for a CFO to say. But anyway, the fact that he just told 25 highly informed, very interested analysts, okay, does not mean that the information is public. Okay, until they release it publicly, okay, well, it is still non-public information. So the information has to be both material and non-public. Okay, in order for it to be public, the standard there for what constitutes public information would be that the average Joe could gain access to it, is the way to think about that. And of course, to act on this information, of course, means direct impact on the security, but also on any derivative or any fund or anything like that. You have to act like you did not have possession of the material non-public information. Okay, so in terms of guidance, so you have material non-public information. You can, and you were provided that as part of your job responsibilities. For instance, you're doing due diligence on some sort of M&A transaction. Okay, well, that's fine. You can use it for the purposes that your firm was hired for. That is some sort of M&A analysis. But then you can't use it for trading. Now, there is one interesting thing here to take note of, and that's the mosaic theory. And what the mosaic theory says is that it's not a violation if you combine non-material, non-public information with public information to reach a conclusion. So if you walking through the mall and you see a whole bunch of kids crowded around a particular item, I don't know, video game, whatever it is, and you think, wow, that's really got a response, right? And you're in another mall and you see the same thing. Well, all right, so that's not necessarily public. They haven't been posting pictures on the front page of the Wall Street Journal of huddles of kids around their new video game. Okay, but it's non-material, even though it was non-public. But it's non-public, but it's also non-material. You go and you dig out the firm's financial statements. You get the latest sales reports or industry analysis that's been published on whatever website, and you come to the conclusion that you should buy this firm. Well, you used public information and non-material, non-public information. You put those two things together, you reached a superior conclusion, you profit from that. So that's the mosaic theory. So non-public, non-material information is fine. Okay, it is material non-public information that you have to be concerned about. So in terms of recommended procedures here, of course we have the information firewall between departments. So most stereotypically anyway, between research and iBanking. So if the iBankers are doing something, research people are doing something else, okay, well, we ought to have some sort of wall that limits communication, and the pendulum has swung a long way in one direction on that. I think it's softened up a little bit, but nonetheless, okay, there ought to be some sort of barriers so the information flows don't get used improperly. So, of course, we've all talked to other places about a restricted list. These are things that employees can't trade in currently because the firm has privileged access or something, and we want to be reviewing employee trades, right? So as a recommendation, well, we ought to be reviewing employee trades to see if we have an employee that's always trading. Just before we announce good things about a firm, they're always buying it, and just before we announce bad things, they're always selling it. Okay, well, we ought to be monitoring those. And then also, we ought to increase our review and review and restrict proprietary trading when the firm is in possession of material non-public information. So we've got a prop trading department in our iBank. Okay, well, the iBankers are preparing, some sort of new acquisition, whatever it is. Okay, well, then we probably ought to put that firm or maybe both firms on the restricted list so that our department and our prop trading department and our employees are not trading in that particular or in those securities that are involved with this material, non-public information that we possess. All right, so that's standard 2A, material non-public information. Let's talk about market manipulation. And of course, what this says is that you shouldn't manipulate the markets. Okay, so that's probably a surprise, but you're not to engage in practices that distort prices or artificially inflate trading volume with the intent, okay, to mislead the market. All right, so the intent to mislead, and that is sort of a fine line. There are bankers that will announce, look, we're taking this firm public and we'll guarantee a certain amount of liquidity for 3 months or 6 months. Well, that's the notion is that that's not it's been announced. Okay, they've told the world they're doing it. They're doing it in order to maintain liquidity for some period of time. Okay, well, that would impact trading volume, right? but that would not be with the intent to mislead market participants because they've been very upfront about it. Now, if they were doing it in the background, they didn't say they were going to do it. They were just buying and selling just to be able to show volume because it helps them bring in other business. Well, that, of course, would be a violation. So, in terms of guidance here, you can't engage in transaction-based manipulation. So you can't give false impressions of activity or price movements. Okay? So you can't kind of corner the market, that is, gain a dominant position so that you can manipulate the price. And basically, you're not supposed to distribute false or misleading information that is going to pertain to securities or contracts or something like that. So don't manipulate the markets, and that probably isn't a big surprise. There's a number of ways we could think about doing that. Some of them within the curriculum, things like wash sales or painting the tape or something like that. Those are things that you would want to that would be manipulating market prices or activity, okay, for personal, or not for personal gain, but for the gain or the betterment of the firm or higher profits. Okay, well, you just can't do that. You can't distribute false information. You can't create the appearance of something that is going to that could lead market participants to an erroneous conclusion, and then in the fine print it's saying, and you're hoping they come to the wrong conclusion because of what you're doing.